From Télé to Oudiabé, 70 miles. By General Joffre. Coffee Break Collection 32, Wilderness. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sonia. From Télé to Oudiabé, 70 miles. From Télé, a road leads directly to Sumpi, passing by the ruins of Gardio and by Diartou. This road was then entirely under water, and to take it was out of the question, although it was by far the shortest route. On the other hand, we could not skirt the inundations of the Niger, which were then falling. We should have been constantly kept away from the water by the soft mud left by the river in this region. Furthermore, as the floods spread in the valleys much further out than in the higher parts of the country, long and numerous detours would have been necessary, and the distances would have been considerably lengthened. Besides, these parts are uninhabited, and we could not have found any guide who, taking us straight from one inundation head to the next, might have avoided the many inlets and made the road as short as possible. It was necessary, then, to take the path followed by the natives, which passes by Dioura 25 miles away, by the well of Boulavi 25 miles further on, and ends at Oudiabé 20 miles beyond. These three are the only places along the route where there is water. We covered the distance from Télé to Dioura between 4:15 o'clock in the afternoon and 10:30 the next morning, with a rest of 7½ hours in the ruins of Nyarnyardé, where we spent the night. In the village of Dioura there are 4 wells, which gave us all the water we needed. At Boulavi there is only one well 200 feet deep, which, with the means at the traveller's disposal, supplies only 15 liters of water every 5 minutes. Although we had arrived at 1:40 in the afternoon, and did not leave till 4:15 the next morning, and though water was drawn all night, we could only give the troops and the animals a very small ration of water. As for the porters, they had had no water at all as yet, and to enable them to quench their thirst a little, they were left at the wells after the departure of the column. We now crossed a desolate, nearly desert country, under a burning sun. We arrived at the village of Oudiabé, in the canton of Nampala, on the 7th January at 12:45 in the afternoon, leaving behind several stragglers exhausted with heat and thirst. In order that all should have water in sufficient quantity and as soon as possible, the troops were divided among the villages of Oudiabé, Diavambé, Ndoudi I, and Ndoudi II, which each possessed an abundant well. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon all the troops were settled in camp. We then gathered as many porters as we could find, tirailleurs who volunteered, and natives, and dispatched them on the road to Boulavi to carry water to the convoy which we had left there. 5 groups of porters were thus sent between 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 8 the next morning, 150 porters in all. The convoy had left Boulavi on the 7th at 12:30 p.m., but being obliged to halt between 1:30 and 4 in the afternoon, on account of the great heat, by nightfall they had only covered 6 miles. Starting again the next morning at 6:30, they were able to reach Oudiabé at 3 in the afternoon, thanks to the convoys of water which they met at intervals along the road. This scarcity of water during a long march in the intense heat fatigued the troops excessively and exhausted a considerable number of porters. Rest was necessary, so the column remained in camp until the 10th. This halt was also necessary in order to get a fresh supply of provisions, as ours were entirely consumed. The troops found sufficient grain for themselves in the villages where they were encamped. But from Oudiabé to Sumpi, the first inhabited place we were to reach, there would be 6 long stages, and we would, therefore, have to carry at least 6 days' rations, that is, 9 tons of grain. Immediately on our arrival, Ibrahima Ahmadi, chief of the canton of Nampala, had been called upon to furnish us with these provisions. He was the successor of El-Hajj Buguni, former chief of the country, who declared himself our enemy and openly allied himself with the Tuareg tribe of the Kelantasar, with whom he took refuge. Ibrahima, nominated by the commandant of the circle of Sokolo, had as yet little authority over the village chiefs. After trying for 24 hours, he was obliged to acknowledge his failure to get the provisions, and asked for the aid of an armed troop to enable him to fulfill his task. A section of our tirailleurs then accompanied him to the various villages of his canton, which, at the mere sight of our soldiers, at once supplied the food we demanded. End of From Télé to Oudiabé, 70 miles.